Hey everybody, Johnny Stewart here from John's Guitar Lounge. I've been getting a lot of questions about bending notes. I'm going to show you more advanced techniques and more intermediate techniques. And trust me, as you do this more and more, it's going to become second nature and you're going to be able to bend a whole step in no time. But you're probably going to be a little bit under the pitch. And again, that's not going to be good, so keep pushing. So now that you've learned how to do half step bends, let's talk about bending a whole step. And remember, what I mean by half step and whole step are different intervals between notes. A half step means two notes that are right next to each other. For instance, when we're on the high E string on the 5th fret, that's an A, and a half step up would be the A sharp or B flat on the 6th fret. That's a half step. One whole step would be between A and B, the 7th fret of the E string. A and B is a whole step. So you've already learned how to do a half step bend, bending up to the B flat. So now let's learn how to do a whole step bend, bending up to the B. And just for the purposes of practicing, I want you to move up the neck further. So we're going to move up to a D note on the high E string, and that's going to be your 10th fret. So we're going to go way up the neck here to the 10th fret, and this is where we're going to practice bending a whole step first. And that's because as you're closer to the nut of the guitar, or, where the strings go up to the headstock, and as you get closer to the body of the guitar and to the bridge, where there's higher tension, it can be harder to bend strings. So when we're basically in the middle of those two places, like around the 10th or 12th fret, then the tension's going to be the lowest on the strings, and it's going to be the easiest to bend. We're going to practice bending all the way up from the D to the E. But we're not going to be using two fingers, we're just going to be using one finger. We're going to be using our ring finger, and we're going to start at the 10th fret, and we're going to bend up a whole step from the D to the E. Now remember, a half step bend would be from the D to the E flat. See how that's lower than the E? That's the E. Now how do we practice that and know that we're getting all the way to the E? Because, we might not be able to bend that far yet, and maybe we're getting just under the pitch, and that's not good. You don't want that. Or maybe you're overshooting it, and that's going to be sharp, and you don't want that either, because that's not going to be in tune when you're actually playing. Well, just like I told you in the first video, there are a couple ways you can do it. You can use a backing track. So if you want to play in the key of E, say, just go on YouTube, find a backing track. You can find all sorts of backing tracks for all sorts of music. Country, blues, jazz, rock, whatever you want. However you want to practice, whatever kind of music you like. But if you don't have a backing track, or if you don't want to do that, the more organic way is, you know that you want to be hitting an E eventually, right? That's your target note. So where else is there an E on the guitar that's easy to get to? The low E string. There's your low E string. So you can just play your low E string open. Just let it ring open. And then you can go up to your high E string with your fingers like I showed you a minute ago. So just play that low E string open, and then start on the D up here on the 10th fret of your high E string, and bend up to the E, and practice playing the low E, which is going to be 2 octaves lower, but it's still the same note, even though it's 2 octaves lower. And then just listen, and just do this for a while. Now your fingers are going to get tired. You gotta take a break every now and then. Take a break after just a couple seconds if you need to. It's going to take time to get the strength, because now you're not just going up a half step, you're going up a whole step. And you're pushing the strings a lot farther, and so it's going to be more tiring for your fingers, especially as you're learning, but that's okay. Everybody can do this. It just takes time. It might take you a couple days, it might take you a couple weeks or longer, but however long it takes you, you're going to be able to do it. So just keep doing this exercise. Just play that low E string open, then go up to your high E string, and practice bending. And just play them back and forth, and listen to when they're in tune. See, now I'm a little bit sharp, see? See, now I'm pushing too far. Hear how that's too high? Now it's in tune. Now it's a little bit flat, so you got to push it up a little bit further to get in tune. I know that's going to sound lousy at first. It's okay. It's going to take time. That is why it's called practice. You have to practice this stuff, and it's going to be painful for a little while physically on your fingers until you learn how to do it and build the strength, and also probably painful to your ears because you're going to be slightly out of pitch sometimes. But that's how you learn exactly how far you have to bend the string to get the note perfectly in pitch. That's how you learn, is by doing it over and missing a bunch of times. And trust me, as you do this more and more, it's going to become second nature, and you're going to be able to bend a whole step in no time. And once you get better at bending a whole step, and You can do that in pitch from the D to the E on the high E string, and get it right in pitch and right in tune, and you've got the strength to do it. Then try it on some different parts of the neck. Stay on the high E string for now, and try it on some different parts of the neck. For instance, try starting at your B, which is on your 7th fret, and try bending a whole step up to your C sharp. Now that might be tougher to try to get right in tune because you don't have a C sharp string that's easy to play as an open string. But if you really want a little bit of a challenge, what'll be fun is come all the way down here now to your 3rd fret. And that's a G note, right? Remember, the A on the 5th fret of our high E string is going to be our target. So we're going to start at the G, and we're going to want to bend up to the A note. That's a whole step. And look, you've got an A string on your guitar, so you can play the A string open as your reference point, just like you were playing the low E before in the first exercise. So play that A string open without any fingers on the fretboard. Just play it open. Then put your ring finger here on your 3rd fret of your high E string. That's the G. And we're going to bend up a whole step to the A. So play your A string open, and then bend up from the G at the 3rd fret up to the A. And then check the pitch, just like you were doing before. So there it is. Now, this is going to take a lot more practice because the strings are much tighter and much harder to bend and harder to push on when you're right close to the nut here at the headstock, right by the headstock. But, again, with practice, you're going to be able to do this. And this can be really, really useful for country playing and for certain rock licks also, like modern rock stuff too. So you want to be able to do this. And it's going to take time, again, to build that finger strength. And this is where using all 3 fingers to bend can really help you push that string up. And notice it's in pitch. And again, it's just going to take time, but you will be able to find that note and bend to it without the reference note eventually. But for now, practicing, just make sure you're not going too far. It's going to be hard to go past it, but you might as you're trying to do this. But you're probably going to be a little bit under the pitch. And again, that's not going to be good, so keep pushing, 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 and then stop. Whenever you need to rest, just stop. Take your hands off, shake them out a little bit. Seriously, shake them out a little bit. Just rest for a second. Maybe play a couple other things or play a couple other chords or whatever for a couple minutes. Just get your fingers loosened back up again. And then, when you're ready to go back and try it again, go back and try it again. Play the A string, and then bend your high E up to the A. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, I'm going to ask you to please like it here on YouTube. The more likes it gets and the more comments it gets, the more YouTube is going to push it out so other people can see it too and hopefully learn from it, just like you are. Subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with everything going on here in John's Guitar Lounge, and so you can see the rest of this bending series, because we're going to get into some really cool stuff. And so you can see all the rest of my guitar lessons. So stay tuned for more, and I will see you next time right here in John's Guitar Lounge.